These markers suck from the TikTok shop, should known, but the whiteboard works. You can see the video is about percentages today. We're doing math, ladies and gents. So get out your notebooks and prepare to learn something. So I'm going to get rid of this. You may ask yourself, why do we need to know math? We're a bunch of meatheads. What does math do? But I'm telling you, percentages is one of the most important numbers, in my opinion, in lifting. And it changed the way that I looked at my lifting. It made my lifting evolve. It allowed my lifting to run on autopilot. And I believe it would do a lot for anyone who takes the time to sit down and actually understand percentages. When I say percentages in the gym, we know that we have a 1 rep max, right? So this 1 rep max is the absolute expression of strength. When the stars align perfectly, when the sun and the moon are coordinated, we are able to express this. This is our best effort. So you're fully fueled. You are sleeping properly. You have managed to drop off fatigue. So you're not tired or sore, but neuromuscularly, you are able to snap and you have that explosiveness to execute that 1 rep max, because it's not just physical capacity, it's mental capacity when it gets that heavy. It's CNS, it's your central nervous system. And so all these things have to be factored in to our 1 rep max. Uh, you can wing it. You know, most of us along the way, we figure it out. We figure out, hey, this is my best. I can't really go above this effort. This 315 bench, I can't bench above no matter what I seem to do. When you run a structured powerlifting program that has base training and then it specializes a little bit more from there, maybe you go from base building, hypertrophy, you start to narrow your focus, you start to do less exercises and less reps as the weeks go on, and you peak and you get through the program, right? We have these different phases of a powerlifting program. You get through all of them. You drop your fatigue at the end. You do your little deload, your technical deload, where you pull back the weight and the volume, but you still practice the skill of the squat, bench, and deadlift. And then you rest, and then you prepare to fire that next week, right? That 1 rep max attempt when everything is lined up. I feel like that is the most reliable way to get your 1 rep max attempt, but it's going to take some time, right? It's going to take 8, 12, 16, depending on where you are. It's going to take a couple weeks to get there, but it will be worth it, because once you find this number, your training will evolve. I am not kidding you. It is just that important. Let's get black, because that's what I am. If we draw a line, and this line is a spectrum, our 1 rep max is here, and uh, this is our hardest effort. So hard, yeah, challenging. We'll add more words. But if that's on one end, then these other end, technically speaking, it would just be you can do a ton of reps. So let's just assume 30 plus reps. Holy fatigue. But this is our 1 rep max, hard, challenging. This is 30 reps. This would be our easier effort. So as we move along this graph, say this is 50% of our 1 rep max. This is 0% of our 1 rep max. This is 100% of our 1 rep max. As we move along this spectrum, the first thing you should notice is you are able to do less reps. As the weight gets heavier, we are able to do less repetitions. As the weight gets lighter, we can do a lot of repetitions. But the key here in the gym is finding effective stimulus. You don't want to lift 0% of your 1 rep max, because that's not effective. You can go look, the research says somewhere around 30% the loads are stimulative enough to cause growth. Now, what kind of growth? Yeah, but they somewhere around 30% of your 1 rep max, the loads are stimulative enough to cause growth. So that being said, if you can bench 315, I should have had a calc. I think it was 94, 95 pounds. That's 30%. You should not be doing less than 90 pounds on the bar if this is your max, right? And the numbers change, they shift. They're not hard numbers, but they are estimates. But we know this is the bottom of our range. Anything below this is wasteful. But we also know as we increase the 30% towards 100%, we're able to do less reps. Now, our job as athletes is to find effective reps, effective stimulus that helps us achieve our goals. And so, if you are strength training, you want to train closer 70, 80, somewhere around 70 to 80% of your one rep max. That's primarily going to be where your focus is. If you are doing hypertrophy training, your load is allowed to be anywhere from this 30% to minimally effective up till about the 70% where the strength training adaptations start to happen a little more. Now, that is not to say training beyond 70 or 80% will not yield hypertrophy based stimulus. It will. You will still grow in size if you are training more than 70 or 80%. It's just not as much. There are better ways to grow in size, mainly this 30 to 70%, if you are interested. Now, if you want strength, 80 to 20, you're going to be practicing. It's a different skill than lifting this lighter load. Up here, this 70 or 80%, the loads start to require more than just physicality. Again, this is where that central nervous system comes in. You have to be well rested. You need your brain firing. You need to be hydrated so you have the electrolytes, the magnesium. Your brain has the chemicals that it needs to fire on all signals because it's a whole body effort to lift a one rep max. It's the total expression of strength. You will need your senses about you. This point being is this spectrum from 0 to 100% allows us to visualize our load in the gym. 30% is the minimum amount, and we know that there's no reason to ever drop. And this can translate to other exercises as well. Outside of compounds, it's generally, I don't hear people talk about it that much, but I like to keep that in mind. So if I know I can curl 75 pounds, I can curl 70 pounds clean, that's my one rep max. Well, then I'm not going to drop below 30% of 70 pounds when I'm curling because anything too low is not effective. Now, the flip side of that is too low is not effective, too high, you kind of have to balance fatigue. You're not going to be able to do a ton of repetitions. When you know the percentage of your max, it allows you to predict how many reps you should be able to get. And if you know, hey, let's just write it out. So 315, I think 60% is somewhere around 13615 times 60%. I hope you guys know this decimal. Equals like 189. So if your one rep max is 315 and we're going for hypertrophy stimulus and whatever, we got 60% on the bar, we have this weight on the bar, then we know that there's a certain amount of reps that we should be able to achieve when we're using this percentage. Your one rep max, 100%, one rep. Let's just say somewhere around 90%, you'll generally be able to get 3 reps. Somewhere around 80%, you'll generally be able to get 6 to 8 reps. So if you ever have seen, at least in my programming, I like to use Hythens because I'm not going to give you a hard number to hit because you should be able to hit it. But when you have that number, you get fixated on it. But sometimes your body will allow you to push harder. Sometimes you may have adapted, you may have a new adaptation, a new strength built up since the last time you've done this exercise, and you're able to express more reps. And so that's where Hythens come in. But back to the point, we have these percentages. We see that we are able to lift this expected amount of reps at this expected percentage of the weight. Let's add somewhere, it looks to be about 3 to 4 reps every time we drop about 10% in load. So 70%, let's just keep the train going, somewhere between, let's just say 10 to 12, I know. And then 60% is somewhere around, let's say 13, 15. Yeah, sounds about right. So again, these are estimates, but if your one rep max is 100%, your 3 rep max is 90%, your 6 to 8 reps is 80%. Well, we know when we put this weight on the bar for the bench press, it's 315 times 0.6. we get 189. That's our 60%. Is how many reps we should be able to get. If you are not able, and it's an estimate, right? But as we get closer, it starts to get more correct. But let's say we're lifting 60%. If you're not able to get this amount of reps, there may be an issue, right? You may be regressing in your training. You may be too fatigued. Exercise placement matters if it's too far back in your program. Say you normally bench with your 60% first exercise of the day. Obviously, you should be able to hit it. If you switch it to the last exercise, you may not be able to hit it. Minor caveats like that. But generally, this percentage will allow you to estimate the amount of reps you can get. And if you are not getting this rep, then you know you're not getting stronger. And you know you don't have to hit your 1 rep max. You don't have to wait all these weeks to know, hey, am I progressing? You don't have to wait to test a number to validate it to see. You know, if my 1 rep max of my bench is 315 and I put on 290, because that's about, take off 10%, all this darn math. I told you it was going to be a lot of math. Times 10, it's like minus 30 pounds. So, sue me. 285. If you put on this weight, this 90%, 280, and you get 6 reps, then you can almost be assured that your 1 rep max is no longer 315. So that's the nice thing about percentages. They allow you to gauge your progress as you are going along. We said that hypertrophy mainly lives in, take notes. Take notes. I'm so serious. Maybe look up how to spell that. Hypertrophy is going to live somewhere in that 50 to 70% range, right? That's going to be most of our effective hypertrophy training. Use a different color for green. For green. So, hypertrophy, we know the effective weight that we are lifting for the load should be somewhere between 50 to 70% of our 1 rep max. For strength training, it's going to trend closer to 70 to 95%. Now, why are they not going to be 100%? Generally, because that total expression of strength, you are going to grow from it, but it is too fatiguing to use normally in your training. It's too fatiguing to go 100% out on your squats, and then the very next day to come back and expect to hit 1 rep max on your bench. Your neuromuscular components, you can train, and powerlifters train their best because it is a skill being able to produce those kind of 3 efforts, those 9 efforts across that day. But generally speaking, your central nervous system, your CNS, will be tired after a 1 rep max. And so it's not the most effective way to get stimulus in. That 30% is the minimum of our 1 rep max that we can lift for effective training. You can still lift this way. This may not be the most effective way to get strength gains at all, but hypertrophy training size gains are a little easier to come by than strength training. You don't have to be as coordinated. Uh, so if we lift this 30%, it's all about the intent. It's all about how you are lifting. Just because you are lifting 70% of your max load doesn't mean you're going to grow. Remember what I keep saying about effective stimulus, effective rep ranges. You want to get the most bang for your buck. If you lift 70% one time, you're not really going to grow. The muscles aren't going to be challenged. The other half of this, we have the math, we have the equation, but the other half is the, I guess, the personal anecdotes. The how does the muscle feel? Is the muscle tired? Is the muscle showing signs of fatigue? Is the muscle still able to fire at the rate that it was able to fire when you came in? So when you flex, does the flex still feel as strong as a day off? Or, you get to the end of the workout and you can't flex. You are tired. Like your brain is not able to send those electrical signals to the muscle because it's fatigued. It's filled with metabolites and all kinds of responses to the micro tears, the damage you caused while lifting. About intent. So if you lift with, you can lift 30%. If you lift with intent, if you take it to, you're going to have to take it to a higher rep range. 30%, we might be talking about 30 reps. That's when we're really pushing minimum weight, as many reps as we can to pump as much blood into the muscle as possible. It's all about your training. Generally, though, it's not very useful. Maybe a warm up weight to start with. but generally I like to warm up somewhere around 50%. That sounds like that's actually BS. You know, you guys saw me. You put the bar on the weight. You start with the empty bar, 45 pounds. Technically, that is 10% for me. So 45 is 10% because I can squat 500. Then you add two more plates, 90. The two plate method is goaded, but you can start at 50%. So if your one rep max is 315, you should probably, 150. You should not be making, you should not go from like bar to like 225. That's not a good idea. Maybe start around that 50%, which is going to be closer to that 150. So the percentages, just at least for me, they allow me to visualize what I should be doing with the weight at different loads. So if the weight is 100%, I know that, hey buddy, this is pretty heavy. You're not gonna get many chances to f around here. You better get good reps. You're only gonna get one. That percentage dictates everything. The percentage dictates the load. The load dictates how much fatigue you will be incurring. How much fatigue you incur will dictate how much recovery you will need. So it all really starts with that percentage. And once you know the correct percentage, you shouldn't be going too heavy or too light. You should be lifting like Goldilocks, like right in the sweet zone. So I hope this video made sense for you guys. I hope this video is helping you guys further visualize what you have to do as an athlete, as a lifter, to become better. Right, a little bit of math, but once you understand these loads, you know which load 100%. Think of that spectrum. You know which load will be the most stimulative, which one will be the most demanding on your body. And then once you hit 0%, you know which load will be the easiest, which load will take less effort to lift. Either less effort, same thing, but it won't be as stimulative. And remember, too much stimulation is a bad thing. Who knew? Overstimulation. You guys remember freaking graphs from school? It's kind of inverse. It's a good way to look at it. So high reps, low weight. Okay, I screwed that up. Let's try again. You get the point. It's an inverse chart. So high reps, low weight. As you go on, the weight increases. Goddamn, your reps go down. So it's an inverse chart. As your reps start high, the weight is low. As your reps start to decrease, they come lower. Your weight is increasing until we hit this apex, and that's your reps have come down from how many you can do. The weight has increased. So this is just, it's how I like to visualize. Just makes it a little easier. And I'm not exactly a math major. So if I can figure it out, I wholeheartedly believe in you guys. But I was putting on 100%. He's loading up 315. He's going for broke, risking it for the biscuit. No, don't deal with that. Bro, I'm going to need you to lower that weight so we can get effective training. Like, come on, 100%, too much. So thank you guys for watching. Hope this makes your training better. And look at this cool bow and arrow I got.